The massive space station hung in orbit around Earth like a shining star. Inside, Commander Natalie Walters stood tall in her crisp blue uniform. She watched through the large window as the alien ship approached. Her heart beat faster, but her face remained calm. "They're right on schedule," said Lieutenant Peter Garcia, checking his tablet. He stood beside her, his dark eyes focused on the incoming vessel. Natalie nodded. "First contact with an alien race. Never thought I'd see the day." The aliens called themselves the Voidborn. Humans had picked up their signals 3 months ago. After weeks of basic communication, both sides agreed to meet face-to-face. The Earth Space Defense Fleet chose Natalie to lead this historic meeting. The alien ship was smooth and white, glowing with a soft blue light. It moved with grace, stopping perfectly beside the human station. A docking tube extended, connecting the two vessels. "They requested maximum lighting again," Peter said, looking at the environmental controls. "That's the 4th time they've asked us to turn up the lights." Natalie wasn't surprised. The reports from the communication team had been clear. The Voidborn came from a planet that orbited twin suns. Their world never knew darkness. Day lasted forever on their home planet. The concept of night was alien to them. "Give them what they want," Natalie said. "We need this meeting to go well." The lights in the docking area brightened to an almost uncomfortable level. Natalie put on dark glasses and signaled to her team to do the same. The inner door of the docking tube opened. 3 tall figures stepped through. The Voidborn were beautiful in a strange way. They stood about 7 feet tall with slender bodies. Their skin looked like polished black stone that reflected the bright lights. They had 4 arms and moved with smooth, flowing motions. Their heads had no hair and 4 large eyes blinked in different patterns. They wore simple white clothes that seemed to glow slightly. The first alien stepped forward. "I am Speaker of Truths," it said through a small device around its neck. The voice sounded musical but artificial. "We bring greetings from the Voidborn Collective." Natalie removed her glasses and bowed slightly. "I am Commander Natalie Walters of Earth. Welcome to our station." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "We are most pleased to establish formal relations. Your accommodations are most bright. We appreciate your consideration of our needs." "We want you to feel comfortable," Natalie said. She gestured toward the hallway. "Please follow me to our meeting room." As they walked, Natalie noticed how the aliens kept looking at the lights as if checking that they were still on. One of them carried a small device that glowed brightly. An emergency light source, perhaps? In the meeting room, more of Natalie's team waited. Dr. Olivia Martinez, the lead scientist, stood up as they entered. Captain Eric Johnson remained seated, his face serious. He was there to assess any potential threats. The Voidborn took their seats at the large round table. They placed small glowing objects in front of them. "We bring gifts," Speaker of Truth said. "Light stones from our world. They never dim." "Thank you," Natalie said, accepting one. It felt warm in her hand. "We have gifts too." She nodded to Peter, who brought forward a box. Inside were books about Earth, digital storage devices with music and art, and samples of food that the scientists believed would be safe for the aliens. Speaker of Truths examined the books with interest. "These contain your stories?" "Yes," Olivia said. "Our history, our fiction, our knowledge." The alien opened one book, looking at the pages with all 4 eyes. "We have accessed some of your broadcasts. Your species has many stories about darkness, about fear of what hides in shadows." Natalie nodded. "Some of our oldest stories deal with fear of the unknown. Darkness represented that unknown." "You sleep when your world turns from your sun," another alien said. This one had introduced itself as seeker of knowledge. "You willingly enter darkness?" "We need sleep," Olivia explained. "Our bodies evolved on a planet with day and night cycles." The aliens looked at each other, blinking patterns that Natalie couldn't understand. "Fascinating," Speaker of Truths said. "Your species embraces a state that would cause great distress to ours." The meeting continued for 3 hours. They discussed basic cultural differences, scientific knowledge, and possible trade opportunities. The Voidborn seemed most interested in human psychology and history. When the aliens returned to their ship, Natalie's team gathered in the secure conference room. "They're hiding something," Eric said immediately. "Did you notice how they kept asking about our reaction to darkness?" Olivia nodded. "They seemed fixated on it, almost like they were looking for a weakness." Back in her private quarters, Natalie received a secure message from Admiral Kim at Earth Command. She opened it on her tablet. "Our code breakers have partially decrypted some Voidborn transmissions," the message read. "They refer repeatedly to humanity's primitive fear of the void and discuss strategic advantages. Be careful, Commander. We believe they may be assessing Earth for more than just diplomatic relations." Natalie frowned. She called up files on her tablet, reading reports from Alan Reyes at Central Intelligence. The Voidborn fleet was much larger than the aliens had admitted. Ships were gathering at the edge of the solar system. A soft beep indicated another message. This one contained images from deep space telescopes. The Voidborn had massive ships hiding behind Saturn. Warships, based on their design. Natalie looked out her window at the stars. The Voidborn thought they had found humanity's greatest weakness: fear of the dark. They believed that humans, who evolved to be cautious at night, would be vulnerable to whatever they were planning. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had mastered darkness long ago. Humans had night vision technology, underground cities, submarines that stayed in the dark ocean depths for months. Some of Earth's most elite military units specialized in night operations. The Voidborn had made a serious mistake. They thought humans feared the dark because humans turned on lights. They didn't understand that humans controlled light, used it when needed, turned it off when not. Natalie smiled as she sent her report to Admiral Kim. She included her recommendation. "Let them believe we fear darkness. When the time comes, we'll show them what humans can really do." She looked at the glowing stone the aliens had given her. Then she turned off the lights in her room and sat in the comfortable darkness, planning humanity's response to the threat that was coming. Dr. Olivia Martinez stood in the lab on the space station, pointing to a screen that showed pictures of human brains. The alien scientist watched with 4 eyes that blinked in different patterns. "This is what happens in a human brain when we sleep," Olivia said. She moved her finger to show different colors on the image. "Our bodies make a chemical called melatonin when it gets dark. This helps us sleep." The alien, called Scientist of Minds, leaned closer to the screen. Its skin gleamed like black glass under the bright lights of the lab. "So darkness triggers a physical change in your bodies?" "Yes," Olivia said. "Humans need regular periods of darkness for proper health." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Olivia had learned this meant surprise or disbelief. "Yet your stories show fear of darkness. Your ancient writings speak of monsters hiding in shadows. Your children ask for lights when they sleep." Olivia nodded. "That's true. Long ago, when we couldn't see in the dark, being careful at night kept us safe from animals that might hurt us. But being careful isn't the same as being afraid." It had been 3 weeks since the Voidborn arrived. What started as simple meetings had grown into what they called cultural exchanges. Different aliens came to the station each day, asking questions and collecting information. They seemed especially interested in how humans felt about darkness. Meanwhile, on the hidden ship called Starlight, Captain Eric Johnson received a message from Earth Command. He read it on his secure tablet while his second-in-command, Lisa Blackwood, waited. "The Voidborn fleet is growing," Eric said, looking up from the screen. "Our long-range sensors show more ships arriving at the edge of our solar system." Lisa frowned. "What are they planning?" Eric tapped the tablet, bringing up intercepted messages from the aliens. "Our code breakers found something interesting. The Voidborn keep talking about a darkness strategy. They think if they can plunge Earth into darkness, humans will panic." "They think we're afraid of the dark," Lisa said, understanding now. "That's why they keep asking about our lighting and sleep habits." Eric nodded and brought up a map of Earth's defenses on the big screen. "Should we tell them that humans have night vision technology, that we fight underwater in submarines, that our best soldiers train specially for nighttime operations?" Lisa studied the map. Admiral Kim's orders are clear. Let them underestimate us. Back on the space station, Commander Natalie Walters met with her team in a secure room. The lights were dimmed to give their eyes a rest from the brightness the Voidborn preferred. They've requested to visit Earth next week, she told the group. A small delegation wants to see how humans live. It's too soon, said Security Chief Ryan Davis. Intelligence reports show their fleet is still growing. They're positioning ships behind Mars now. Natalie tapped her fingers on the table. If we refuse, they'll know we suspect something. Let them come, said Peter Garcia. But we control where they go and what they see. They decided to allow the visit but planned every detail carefully. The Voidborn would see only what humans wanted them to see. The next day, Olivia met again with Scientist of Minds. The alien brought a device that projected images of the Voidborn homeworld. It showed a planet bathed in constant light from two PM suns. When one sun sets, the other rises, the alien explained. Our world never knows darkness. Olivia watched the images with interest. How do you sleep? We enter a rest state while still in light, the alien said. Our eyes can close partially to reduce input. As they talked, Olivia noticed the alien kept looking at the door, as if checking for escape routes. Despite the bright lights in the lab, Scientist of Mind seemed uncomfortable. May I ask you something personal? Olivia said. The alien's skin rippled slightly. You may. Have you ever experienced complete darkness? The alien's body became very still. Its skin, which normally had a soft glow, brightened with stress. Once, during a ship malfunction, all lights failed for 7 minutes. Its voice became quieter. It was unbearable. Later that day, Olivia reported this conversation to Natalie. I think I understand now, she said. The Voidborn don't just prefer light. They're terrified of darkness. Their evolution never prepared them for it. Natalie's eyes widened. So when they see our stories about darkness and night, they project their own fear onto us, Olivia finished. They think we must be terrified of something they find unbearable. A message came through on Natalie's tablet. It was from Alan Reyes at Central Intelligence. Commander, we've decrypted more Voidborn communications. They have devices that can block sunlight. We think they plan to create artificial eclipses over major cities, believing this will cause worldwide panic. Natalie looked up at her team. They're planning to attack us with darkness. That night, the station's systems registered an unauthorized access to Earth's defense files. The Voidborn were spying, looking for weaknesses. Security Chief Ryan Davis tracked the breach. They downloaded information about power grids and emergency lighting systems, he reported. They're studying how to turn off our lights. Natalie called an emergency meeting with Admiral Kim and the Earth Defense Council. On the video screen, serious faces looked back at her. The Voidborn aren't just curious, Natalie explained. They're planning an attack based on a fundamental misunderstanding of human psychology. Admiral Kim nodded. We've been developing a response plan, Commander. It's called Operation Eclipse. The plan was simple but brilliant. Instead of fighting the darkness the Voidborn might create, humans would embrace it. They would use the aliens' fear against them. The next day, Natalie met with Speaker of Truths as if nothing had changed. The alien presented the formal request for an Earth visit. We look forward to seeing the planet that produced such an interesting species, the alien said. Natalie smiled politely. We're happy to host your delegation. There's so much of Earth we'd like to show you. As she spoke, a message appeared on her tablet. More Voidborn ships had entered the solar system. They were moving into position around Earth. Time was running out. The Voidborn were preparing their attack, believing they had found humanity's greatest weakness. They had no idea that they had actually discovered their own. Natalie kept her smile in place. In fact, we've prepared something special for your visit, a unique experience that will help you understand humans better. The alien's 4 eyes blinked with interest. We are most curious. Good, Natalie said, because we're about to show you something your kind has never seen before, humanity in its element. And that element, though the alien didn't know it yet, was darkness. The meeting room on the moon base Armstrong shone with bright lights. 7 humans sat on one side of the long table. 6 void-born aliens sat on the other side. This was the third day of talks between the two groups. Ambassador William Foster spoke in a calm voice about trade agreements. The void-born listened, their 4 eyes blinking in different patterns. Their skin, black and smooth like polished stone, reflected the bright lights. Security Chief Karen Phillips stood quietly by the door. She watched the aliens closely. For weeks she had studied their movements, their reactions, and their strange fear of darkness. Now she waited for the signal. Ambassador Foster checked his watch. Before we continue, I'd like to suggest a short break. Perhaps 10 minutes? Speaker of Truths, the lead alien, nodded. That would be acceptable. As the group stood up to stretch, Karen touched the small device in her pocket. She pressed the button. The lights went out. The room fell into complete darkness. Immediately, high-pitched sounds filled the air. The Voidborn were making noises of panic that their translators couldn't convert to human language. Their skin began to glow brightly with fear, creating just enough light to see their tall bodies shaking. The humans, however, remained calm. Some pulled small flashlights from their pockets. Others simply stood still, waiting for their eyes to adjust to the darkness. Please remain calm, Ambassador Foster said loudly. This is likely a simple power problem. The emergency system should start soon. But the emergency lights didn't turn on. This wasn't an accident. It was a test planned by Karen Phillips. After watching the Voidborn's obsession with light and their questions about human darkness fears, she had convinced the diplomatic team to create this fake power outage to see how the aliens would react. In the darkness, the humans moved easily around the room. Living on Earth, with its regular cycle of day and night, had prepared them for occasional darkness. Power outages during storms were common enough that most people knew how to function without light. The Voidborn, however, couldn't move. They stood frozen in place. Their glowing skin showed their terror clearly. Ambassador Foster walked toward Speaker of Truths, who was shaking visibly. Are you all right? Can we help you? The alien leader's voice trembled. How are your people so calm? The darkness, it is unbearable. Foster offered a kind smile, visible only because of the alien's own glow. For humans, darkness is just the absence of light. Nothing more. Suddenly the lights came back. The Voidborn visibly relaxed, but they looked embarrassed by their reaction. The humans pretended not to notice as they returned to their seats. I apologize for the interruption, Foster said. These old moon bases sometimes have power problems. But the message was clear. It wasn't humans who feared the dark. In the observation room nearby, Defense Secretary Julia Bennett watched the recording of what had just happened. Admiral Kim stood beside her. You were right, she said to him. They're terrified of darkness, and they've been planning to use it as a weapon against us. Admiral Kim nodded. Based on their reaction, Operation Eclipse should be very effective. If they move against Earth as we expect, we'll be ready. Back on Earth, preparations were already underway. In cities around the world, military units practiced operations without lights. Power companies prepared for controlled shutdowns. Citizens received instructions through quiet channels, preparing them for what might come. 2 days after the moon base incident, Speaker of Truths requested an urgent meeting with Ambassador Foster. My government wishes to express concern, the alien said. Our sensors detect unusual activity in your military. Are you preparing for conflict? Foster kept his face neutral. We regularly conduct exercises to maintain readiness. It's standard procedure. The alien's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. We also noticed changes in your power systems. Are you experiencing problems? Just routine maintenance, Foster said with a smile. Nothing to worry about. As soon as the meeting ended, Foster contacted Admiral Kim. They're watching us closely. They must be nearly ready. That night, strange readings appeared on Earth's deep space sensors. The Voidborn fleet was moving, positioning ships in low Earth orbit. In the White House Situation Room, President Laura Wilson met with her security team. The large screen showed the positions of alien ships around the planet. "They're surrounding us," someone said. President Wilson looked at the display. "What exactly are those devices they're deploying?" Colonel Doug Hayes pointed to small objects being released from the alien ships. "They appear to be solar blockers, essentially artificial eclipse creators. Our scientists believe they can block up to 95% of sunlight from reaching areas below them." "They're trying to create darkness," President Wilson said, understanding. "Now." "Just as we expected," Admiral Kim nodded. "First over major cities, then expanding to cover whole regions." "How long until they're fully deployed?" the president asked. 4 hours, Madam President." President Wilson looked around the room at her advisors, then at the representatives from other nations who had joined through video calls. Everyone knew what was coming. Everyone was prepared. "Activate Operation Eclipse," she ordered. Around the world, military commanders received the code word. Special forces teams moved into position. Submarine commanders prepared to surface at key locations. Stealth aircraft took off from hidden bases, and in homes across the planet, people checked their supplies and waited. The first Voidborn message came 3 hours later. It played on all communication devices around the world. "People of Earth, your planet will soon experience darkness as it never has before. Your civilization depends on light. Without it, you will fall into chaos and fear. Surrender now, and the Voidborn Collective will provide the light you need to survive. Resist, and face the terror of the void." President Wilson recorded a short reply. "To the Voidborn fleet, we have received your message. Earth will respond soon." As the first alien shadow devices activated over North America, the sunlight began to dim. In New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and other major cities, an unusual twilight fell in the middle of the day. People looked up at the sky, watching it darken. Then they looked at each other and nodded. They had been waiting for this moment. In the White House, President Wilson watched the live feeds from cities around the country. The streets were calm, no panic, no chaos. "They're ready," she said. "Send the signal." A simple message went out to every home, every business, every streetlight control center. "Eclipse now." One by one, lights began to go out across America. Not because they had failed, but because humans were turning them off. In orbit aboard the Voidborn command ship, Supreme Commander of Conquest stared at the monitoring screens in confusion. "Why are they turning off their artificial lights?" he asked. "They should be creating more light, not less. Their fear should drive them to illuminate everything." His science officer had no answer. Then a message came from President Wilson, broadcast, "To the entire Voidborn fleet. To the Voidborn forces. You've misunderstood humanity. We do not fear the darkness, we master it. We embrace it. We use it. And now, we will show you why." As the message ended, Earth went dark. Not just America, but cities around the world switched off their lights voluntarily. And in the darkness below, humanity prepared to fight back. Supreme Commander of Conquest stared at the screens on the bridge of his ship. The images showed Earth cities going dark one after another. This was not what he had expected. The humans were supposed to panic when their world lost light. Instead, they were turning off their own lights. "I don't understand," he said to his officers. "Why would they increase their darkness? Their own history shows they fear it." No one had an answer. The Voidborn had spent months studying human psychology, focusing on their ancient fear of darkness. The plan had seemed perfect. Create artificial night, watch human civilization collapse. In terror, then offer light in exchange for surrender. But something was very wrong. On Earth, Operation Eclipse moved into its second phase. As the planet's surface darkened, Special Forces teams activated their night vision equipment. These soldiers had trained for years to fight in complete darkness. Now they moved like shadows toward their targets. Captain Ashley Miller led Team Shadow, 20 elite soldiers equipped with the most advanced night vision technology. Their mission: board the central control satellite that managed the Voidborn's shadow devices. "Ready for launch," Ashley said into her comm unit. Her team waited inside a stealth shuttle, hidden in the shadow of the moon. "You are cleared to proceed, Team Shadow," came Admiral Kim's voice. May darkness hide you. The shuttle's engines made almost no sound as it left the moon's surface. The black craft, designed to absorb rather than reflect light, was nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. It approached the large void-borne satellite undetected. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, another part of Operation Eclipse began. From submarines hidden in the oceans, specialized equipment rose to the surface. These devices emitted electromagnetic pulses designed to disrupt void-borne technology. In his underground command center, Admiral Kim watched as signals from the alien fleet began to falter. EMP devices are working, reported his communications officer. Their ships are losing contact with each other. The Admiral nodded. Now for Phase 3. Across the globe, hidden facilities powered up. Earth had been preparing for this moment ever since they discovered the Void-born's fear of darkness. Special aircraft took off from secret bases, their hulls painted with light-absorbing material that made them nearly invisible even to advanced sensors. Aboard the Void-born command ship, alarms sounded. "We're losing communications with the Shadow. Control satellite," reported an officer, her skin glowing with stress. "And our fleet coordination systems are failing." Supreme Commander of Conquest felt fear rising in his chest. "Restore light to the command deck," he ordered. The ship's interior lights brightened, but it didn't help. Something was happening to his carefully planned invasion, and he couldn't understand what. In orbit, Captain Ashley's team reached the Shadow Control satellite. Using magnetic boots, they walked across its surface until they reached an access panel. "Cutting now," said Sergeant Ben Riley, using a special tool that made no spark or flash as it cut through the metal. The team entered the satellite silently. The Void-born inside never saw them coming. Their evolutionary advantage, glowing skin, became their greatest weakness as it made them easy targets in the darkness. Ashley's team moved through the satellite, placing small devices on key control panels. These weren't bombs. They were reprogramming units designed by Earth's best computer experts. "Last one in place," Ashley reported. "Activating now." The devices lit up with small green lights. Within seconds, they took control of the satellite's systems. "Team Shadow to command. We have control of the main Shadow device. Awaiting instructions." Admiral Kim's voice came through clearly. "Redirect it. You know the targets." Ashley nodded to her team. They began typing on the satellite's control panels, changing the coordinates of the Shadow devices. Instead of blocking sunlight from Earth cities, the devices began to move. Their new targets, the Void-born fleet. On the command ship, Supreme Commander of Conquest watched in horror as darkness fell around his vessel. The Shadow devices, his own weapons, now blocked all light from reaching his fleet. "What's happening?" he demanded, but his officers had no answers. Without warning, the ship's interior lights shut down. Emergency systems failed to activate. For the first time in his life, the commander experienced total darkness. Panic spread through the ship. The Void-born, who had never evolved to handle darkness, could not function. Some froze in place. Others ran blindly, crashing into walls and equipment. The commander felt his way to his command chair. "Restore lights," he shouted. "Use backup power." But nothing happened. The darkness remained absolute. Then, strangely, he heard a sound. Movement. Someone was on his bridge. Someone who could navigate in complete darkness. "Who's there?" he called, his voice shaking. A small light appeared, just enough to see a human face. Admiral Kim stood before him, wearing night vision goggles pushed up on his forehead. "Supreme Commander," Kim said calmly, "I suggest you surrender your fleet." In similar scenes across space, human special forces teams boarded the main Void-born ships. Using their ability to function in darkness, they took control with minimal resistance. Most of the Void-born, paralyzed by fear of the dark, surrendered immediately. Those few who tried to fight were quickly overcome by soldiers who could see when they could not. 3 hours after Operation Eclipse began, Admiral Kim reported to President Wilson, "Madam President, the Void-born fleet is under our control. Their Shadow devices have been reprogrammed to our specifications." On screens around the world, people watched as lights came back on in government buildings. President Wilson addressed the global audience. Citizens of Earth, the void-born threat has been neutralized. Their attempt to use darkness against us has failed because they did not understand a fundamental truth about humanity. We have always lived with darkness. We have made it our ally, not our enemy. In the White House Situation Room, the president turned to Admiral Kim. Bring their leader to me. It's time we had a real conversation about peace. As sunlight began to return to Earth cities, the shadow devices now deactivated, people emerged from their homes. There was no panic, no chaos, only the calm efficiency of a species that had faced the dark countless times and learned to master it. On the Void-born command ship, now under human control, Supreme Commander of Conquest was led to a communication room. There, a screen showed President Wilson waiting to speak with him. Your attack has failed, she said simply. Will you talk peace now? The alien commander, his skin still glowing with fear, could only nod. In a single day, every assumption his people had made about humans had been proven wrong. They had believed humans feared the dark, but the truth was far different. Humans didn't just tolerate darkness. They owned it. 1 month after the failed invasion, Commander Natalie Walters stood in the same docking bay where she had first met the Void-born. This time, the lights were set to a medium brightness, comfortable for both species. She watched as a small alien ship connected to the station. The door opened and Speaker of Truth stepped through. The alien diplomat looked different now. Its skin did not glow as brightly with stress and it carried no emergency light source. Welcome back, Natalie said with a small bow. Thank you for receiving me, the alien replied. Much has changed since we last met here, Natalie nodded. For both our peoples. They walked together to a meeting room where Admiral Kim and President Wilson waited via video screen. Representatives from other Earth nations were also present. This was the first formal peace talk between humans and the Void-born since the conflict ended. Supreme Commander of Conquest had been replaced by a new leader called Voice of Harmony. The new leader spoke from a screen on the wall. On behalf of the Void-born Collective, I offer our sincere apology for our actions, Voice of Harmony said. We deeply misunderstood your species. President Wilson nodded. Misunderstandings between different cultures can be dangerous, but they can also be opportunities to learn. We have indeed learned much, the alien leader agreed. Our greatest mistake was projecting our own fears onto your species. Admiral Kim leaned forward. You evolved on a world without darkness. We evolved on one with day and night cycles. Our histories shaped us differently. The talks continued for several hours. Both sides agreed to share technology and knowledge. The humans would help the Void-born develop ways to function in varying light conditions. In return, the aliens would share their advanced solar energy systems. After the formal meeting, Natalie took Speaker of Truths on a tour of the station. They stopped at a special room designed by Dr. Olivia Martinez. This is our new darkness adaptation chamber, Natalie explained. Dr. Martinez created it to help your people gradually get used to lower light levels. The room was currently well lit, but panels on the walls could adjust the brightness slowly over time. Several of your scientists have volunteered to try it, Natalie continued. They believe that with practice, the Void-born can overcome their instinctive fear of darkness. Speaker of Truths looked at the room with all 4 eyes. Just as your people once feared the dark but learned to master it. Exactly, Natalie said with a smile. On Earth, the shadow devices that the Void-born had used in their attack were being repurposed. Engineers led by Alan Reyes worked to transform them into a solar management system. The devices could now be used to reduce harmful radiation in areas suffering from climate change or to increase sunlight for struggling crops. From weapons to tools, Alan said as he showed a group of Void-born scientists his work. That's what humans do best. In her lab, Dr. Olivia Martinez met again with Scientist of Minds. The alien had been one of the first volunteers for the Darkness Adaptation Program. How do you feel today? Olivia asked. Better, the alien replied. Yesterday, I remained in a room with only 30% normal lighting for 10 minutes. It was uncomfortable, but not terrifying. Olivia smiled. That's excellent progress. We believed light was the only way to live, Scientist of Minds said thoughtfully. Now we see there are many ways, many adaptations possible. The biggest change came 6 months after the failed invasion. The Voidborn, who had once planned to conquer Earth, now asked to learn from humans. Their ships, once weapons of war, became schools where humans taught the aliens how to function in different environments. Captain Ashley Miller, who had led Team Shadow during the conflict, now trained Voidborn crews in darkness operations. Standing on the bridge of an alien ship, she watched as the Voidborn practiced using night vision technology. "Turn the lights down to 10%, she ordered. The bridge darkened. 6 months ago, this would have caused panic. Now the aliens continued their work using the equipment humans had designed for them. "Good," Ashley said. "Now try 5%. The lights dimmed further. Some of the aliens moved more slowly, their 4 eyes blinking with effort, but they kept working. "You're doing well," Ashley told them. "Remember, the darkness isn't your enemy, it's just another environment to master." 1 year after first contact, a special ceremony took place on the International Space Station. Representatives from Earth and the Voidborn Collective gathered to sign a friendship treaty. The ceremony included a symbolic moment. The lights were dimmed halfway, creating a balance between the brightness the Voidborn preferred and the lower light levels humans found comfortable. Speaker of Truths, now the official ambassador to Earth, stood beside Commander Natalie Walters. "1 year ago we came seeking to conquer those we thought were crippled by fear," the alien said to the assembled crowd. "Instead, we found teachers who showed us how to overcome our own fears." Natalie smiled. "That's humanity's greatest strength. Not fearlessness, but the courage to face our fears and grow beyond them." After the ceremony, a new joint mission was announced. Humans and Voidborn would work together to explore a newly discovered planet. This world had extreme light cycles, years of brightness followed by years of darkness. Together, the two species could survive and explore where neither could alone. As the first mixed crew prepared to depart, Dr. Olivia Martinez said goodbye to Scientist of Minds, who would be the lead researcher on the mission. "Are you nervous about the dark cycle on the new planet?" Olivia asked. The alien's skin glowed softly. "Yes," it admitted, "but I am no longer controlled by that fear. Thanks to your people, I now see darkness not as an enemy, but as a different kind of frontier." Olivia nodded. "That's how humans have always viewed the unknown. Not something to fear, but something to explore and understand." As the joint mission ship departed Earth orbit, its crew represented a new chapter in the relationship between the two species. The Voidborn had come as conquerors, believing they had found humanity's greatest weakness. Instead, they discovered that what they thought was a weakness was actually a strength. The humans had never feared the dark. They had mastered it. And now, they were teaching others to do the same. Together, humans and Voidborn would explore the universe, in both light and darkness,